We have been eagerly awaiting our opportunity to tell stories of local veterans here in the House and try to get them the services that they need. I'll be splitting my time with the member for Victoria. Just days away is Remembrance Day. We will be celebrating and honoring the contribution of veterans. I'll be standing with Nanaimo Ladysmiths Legions number 256, Mount Benson, number 10, Harewood in Nanaimo, number 257 in Lanceville, number 171 in Ladysmith, also the Gabriela Island Veterans Association and Cedar Valley Memorial Gardens all honor and remember the contribution of veterans. They all host us and facilitate the connection from young to old, and I'm looking very much forward to standing with them. Veterans need parliamentarians to do our part to recognize and support those who have sacrificed for our country. There's clearly a debt owed, there's money in the till, and sincere and vital promises have been made. Every year, 3,000 veterans pass away. So let's get on with it and show that we truly support veterans every day, not just on Remembrance Day. Just on Friday, I was honored to be in the Senate, along with my parents, for the armistice ceremony to recognize 100 years since the end of the Great War, the war to end all wars, 100 years ago. One of the quotes that moved us particularly was the veterans noting that their fallen comrades said, "For their tomorrow, we gave our today." And yet, just this year in a town hall, our Prime Minister, the Liberal Prime Minister, said in response to a very angry question from the audience, said the reason that we are fighting veterans in court is that veterans are, quote, asking more than we can give. A shocking thing to say, especially for us, those of us on the coast who don't support the Prime Minister's choice to buy a leaky old pipeline for $4.5 billion. Clearly there is enough money to go around. And clearly what we hear every day in our ridings is that veterans are not getting the support that they are owed. We held a town hall along with the Nanaimo Legion 10 where veterans said that both Conservative and Liberal governments are, quote, poisoning patriotism and the desire to serve our country, end quote. They said, quote, dealing with veterans affairs with PTSD is like being given a jigsaw puzzle and then turning the lights out, end quote. So these young veterans told me they want a navigator to help with the tangled bureaucracy of PTSD treatment and to make sure that no veteran is discharged without pension and medical benefits already lined up. The Canadian Forces Ombudsman echoed this in withering testimony to the Senate on March 8th of last year, saying Canada is, quote, not living up to its end of the bargain. Our veterans deserve so much better. Ken Young in my riding, who's a brilliant and a compassionate veterans advocate, a veteran himself, he told me someone that he's working with ALS waited 16 weeks and still no response to his phone call. As NDP leader Jagmeet Singh said, quote, veterans shouldn't be put on hold for hours or redirected half a dozen times before they speak to the right person, and they shouldn't have to wait 6 months before receiving the benefits they rightly deserve. It's wrong to make our veterans wait for these services, and it's even worse, they're being shortchanged by hundreds of millions of dollars, end quote. And so, the Democrats today are taking over the agenda of the House with the fix that my colleague, the member for Courtenay Alberni, just north of me on Vancouver Island, he represents Parksville and north and west to Tofino. His motion that we're debating today, if passed by Parliament and implemented by the government, would dramatically improve the lives of Canada's veterans at no additional cost to taxpayers. It seeks to solve two issues that have plagued the Department of Veterans Affairs under both Conservative and Liberal governments. It would end lapsed spending in the department by allowing this unspent money to be carried over to the next year, and that would be for the sole purpose of improving services across the board for Canada's veterans and their families. So here's some stats. Since this Liberal government took power 3 years ago, the Liberals have only rehired 475 frontline staff at Veterans Affairs and just 260 case managers. They remain well short of the 25-to-1 ratio that they themselves called for. the $372 million that has been allowed to lapse by the Liberals in their first 3 years could have been used to hire 5,716 full-time staff, enough to triple the number of staff working at the department. And honestly, this is what we need, to have a human voice there to treat these elders of our community and these brave men and women coming home from the current modern wars, to treat them respectfully, to take them by the hand, to explain to them what they are entitled to, so that nobody has to work out this maze of paperwork on their own. I'm hearing this a lot from the riding, that people are working hard. Mark Smith wrote me this year. He said, imagine being a 24-year-old who has lost the use of both legs and suffered from the mental anguish that goes with the realization of being a 24-year-old with no legs. Now receive a one-time payout and a plane ticket home. Imagine how fast the money disappears, and imagine where that money went to. He says about the Prime Minister, quote, he's stated that he has brought back lifelong pensions. However, only the most injured, 75% plus, will receive approximately $2,200 per month. This is outrageous. And I'm going to talk about another brave member of my community, maybe in another point, someone who's fought the Veterans Department for support after she, as a service person, was sexually assaulted by another service person. It's been a decade she's been trying to get help. It's a terrible problem. We do have a few wins, though, that have happened. The Canadian Medical Cannabis Council was very concerned that veterans who had been prescribed medical marijuana, and in my riding in particular, Nanaimo Tilray is a licensed medical marijuana grower, huge employer of people, and institution, a business that's deeply committed to research on the mental health side. Was sent a petition by thousands of constituents asking that Veterans Affairs cover the cost of marijuana extracts, because that's a more healthy way to take it. And in testament to the power of petitions and the work of the Canada Medical Cannabis Council, the government did change that policy, so that was a win for us. We've also got a great example in a service group, the Vancouver Island Compassion Dogs, that straddles both myself and the member for Courtenay Alberni's riding. We visited together with this inspiring charity which has paired 29 servicemen and women of the Canadian Forces, RCMP, and veterans of foreign war with service dogs. And to meet with these young men and women and to see the effect that these service dogs have on them. They've got a tremendous waiting list. They need more funding. They need more support. But we're very grateful to Vancouver Island Compassion Dogs and to Barb and her whole team for the work that they do. Another person in the riding of Nanaimo, Ladysmith Ken Osborne, has bronzed a 6-foot wreath with contributions of Remembrance Day poppies from all over the country. He offered that to the government, wasn't actually able to qualify for funding to have this beautiful moving war memorial travel across the country. So that was a great disappointment to him, but I understand there has been a Veterans Office that's going to house it, so maybe we'll be able to see it next year. And I also want to applaud the work of the Veterans Transition Network and University of British Columbia that's doing a series of vignettes, a play called Contact Unload, that really breaks open the taboo of talking about mental health and support for veterans. But we certainly have so much work to do here in Parliament. If we could put our money where our mouth is, stop spending hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting veterans in court, if we could tackle homelessness, to our shame, homelessness rates in Canada say there might be as many as 1,300 veterans living on the street. That certainly is happening in Nanaimo. To our great shame, Mount Benson has veterans living on it. And thank you to the people that go out and try to support them. Acting on detox agents for veterans exposed to chemical defoliants, relaxing the regulations on veterans' access who served in the Korean War to long-term retirement and service beds. The work for us goes on and on. So please let's vote in favor of my comrade's motion. It would fund with no additional cost to the taxpayer the work and the treatment and care that veterans so clearly need.